Hello everyone, and welcome to another podcast idea that I have decided that I was going to do kind of spur of the moment, but that's just kind of how things work for me. So, welcome to the pilot episode of Fake Folklore. So, as stated previously, this is a podcast in which I will be talking about fairy folk and actually trying to do my best to bring you the true versions of these particular creatures. So, for a little bit of background, a few weeks ago, before I really started delving into my research, I had a thought that I needed to go through the books on my shelf. And I really needed to start, rooting out things that I didn't necessarily need anymore. It's part of my spring cleaning. I do it every year, where I really kind of sit and assess what things are serving me and what things are no longer serving me. So I had actually been on a blog post where a lot of people were having a conversation around, I'm going to say, the heavy hitters of the witch book world. And what I mean by that is, the type of books that you usually read when you're starting out your pagan journey. So that would be people like Scott Cunningham or Conway or Raven Silverwolf or Edwin McCoy or, Christopher Penczak. Those kinds of people. So on this discussion board, people were actually asking what they thought the worst authors actually were and why. And a lot of those people that I just mentioned, sans Christopher Penczak, there was a commenter who was talking about them and did not have a lot of nice things to say about that other list of people that I just said. And as I was reading that just quick through comment, I found myself saying to myself, this is actually a really, really good point. And I think they're absolutely right. So when I got home, I went into my sacred space and I looked at the bookshelf on which I have had all of the books that I started my heathen journey with back in my early 20s. And just a whole lot on the shelf. And I do have McCoy, and I do have Cunningham, and I do have Conway. And I just started to think about, which books of these on the shelf were serving me and which ones actually needed to go. Now that's actually really hard to answer because nostalgia is a really powerful thing, especially for me. I'm extremely sentimental. So I don't necessarily want to get rid of any of these things, but at the same time, do I really need them anymore? And is their information correct and up to date? So as I sat there thinking, the first book that I actually pulled off the shelf and decided to really get back into and really start to go over with a fine-tooth comb was A Witch's Guide to Faery Folk by Edain McCoy. And this book, the one that I'm holding currently, was published in 2007, which was at the time the 16th publication of this particular book. It was originally published in 1994. And that was back when we had our little mini witch boom, which didn't look anything like the one that we had just a few years ago, where everyone was just kind of crazy, and we got witch talk out of it, for better or for worse. Usually worse, actually. So I love an encyclopedia. An encyclopedia is one of my favorite things, and it's actually the reason that I purchased this book in the first place. Essentially, it is a guidebook to working with the Fae Folk, as well as, a big list in the back, in alphabetical order, my favorite thing, on all the creatures that you could come across in the Fae realms. So one of the biggest problems with this book in particular, aside from the fact that a lot of the creatures that he talks about in here are not Fae Folk, which is just kind of, I guess, my own thing, because I consider things like giants and goddesses and trolls and, things of that nature to be of fairy, but not necessarily fairies, if that makes any sense. And I can't remember which particular one that's in here, but they actually do not like to be referred to as fairies. But we will get to that. So, as I started to go through this, and I started to do a lot of cross-referencing, I discovered that there were a lot of mistakes and a lot of things that just are completely wrong. Like, absolutely, completely wrong. So I started to make notes and take notes in a very, hard way. And what I eventually came up with was a huge list that needed to be corrected. So that is what I'm going to be doing in this podcast. Think of it like I am going to be giving you the information that the book is telling you, and then I am going to be bringing in guest speakers to tell you the reality of that creature. A lot of the people that you'll be hearing are from those particular countries, so I think they would know a lot better than this particular author about the reality of a lot of the things that we will be talking about. But like the book, I will start with A and we will end with Z. But there are going to be points where I might go off book, quote unquote, a little bit, to bring you stuff that it doesn't seem like it pertains to the subject or alphabetical creature that we are talking about, but it absolutely does. And that is because McCoy has a tendency to put other names for a lot of these creatures, and he's just straight up wrong about a lot of them. But I think it's important for them to have their time in the spotlight so that you, the listener, can actually understand where these creatures come from and maybe why he might have thought that they were actually the same name. But yeah, that's really all I have on that. It may look like it's going to be jumping around a bit, but I promise that there is a purpose to it. The main reason that I am doing this is because it's incredibly important to have correct information. It is 2025, and in my research, I have discovered that a lot of the things that he says in here is just being regurgitated in other places, like fandom.com or WordPress or Blogspot. And these are mostly just places, where the general public is also trying to keep their own list of fae creatures. But it's all McCoy stuff. And McCoy didn't even get his own writings from, credible sources for a lot of these. So I do think that it's about time that we stop regurgitating incorrect information because it's not helping us, it's hindering us. And the world is so big and interesting and vast that we can't just continue to have the westernized ideas or even the extremely whitewashed paganism ideas or Wiccaism ideas of Fae and Fairy and other. So with this introduction, that is all I have to say about that. So let us just get right into the meat of this podcast. So the first one that we're actually going to discuss is Afreets or Jinn. So McCoy tends to have sections written out in this particular book of his in the encyclopedia part. So I am going to be reading those sections. So if you're looking at the book, it'll say, Afreets, and it'll also say see Jinn. So if you go to Jinn, the land of origin, according to McCoy, is Saudi Arabia, with the other origins being Persia. The other names are Genie, of course, and then Genie spelled Jeannie, as well as Genie spelled Jeenie. And those are other words which also mean jinn that have been translated from Arabic. Sometimes they are euphemistically referred to as spirits of the lamp. In Egypt, they are called Afreets. Jinn is another term for jinn, which was popular in England, and that is spelled Djinn. It eventually came into the Victorian vocabulary to also mean an occult shop or a place where magic was performed, such as seen in the 1877 Gilbert and Sullivan operetta, The Sorcerer. The element is air. The appearance and temperament. Jinns used to be both male and female, but in the staunchly patriarchal Arab countries, they came to be seen as wholly male. But because they were occasionally housed in receptacles such as bottles, which are also chalices symbolizing the feminine principle of deity, they were certainly also female in equal numbers. Lamps, because they shed light, were sacred to sun gods, indicating that the fairies in these were male. They lived in bottles and oil lamps, from which they appear when summoned by their master, or owners, and grant wishes. Most active time is all year. Lore. Thanks to the famous Persian folktale Aladdin and the Magical Lamp, Westerners are familiar with the Jinn. When the lamp or bottle is rubbed, the Jinn is summoned forth and must do its master's bidding. Such lamps were the private property of Sikhs and potentates, and not for the common person. When such a lamp fell into the hands of an average person, an entire army would be called out to retrieve it. In the late 1960s, the American television series I Dream of Jeannie centered around an astronaut who found an old bottle containing a female Jinn named Jeannie. These bottles and lamps seem to have disappeared over time, leaving both their whereabouts and the source of these legends shrouded in mystery. Where to find them? Unknown. How to contact? Unknown. Magical and ritual help. If you can find one, anything you wish must be granted to you. As we will see, this description is not necessarily correct, so now I'm going to kind of hand over the reins, as it were, to Let's Talk Mythology, so we can actually discuss the true nature of the Jinn.
In this video, we will explore the world of Jinn in depth and take a look at the different types and races of these mysterious beings. Jinn or Jann are intelligent supernatural beings made of smokeless fire and cannot be perceived by human senses. They are said to have inhabited the earth before humans, living in a concealed or invisible realm, a realm with its own laws and distinct nature that we humans are unaware of. So you could say that Jinn live in a different dimension, maybe a fourth dimension, who knows. Despite this, Jinn can still interact with the physical world by assuming animal or human forms, or, according to some sources, by possessing humans, animals, and trees. On the other hand, humans can only influence or provoke the realm of Jinn through magical practices and sorcery. This is usually done by the use of spells and talismans or by performing special and secret rituals. Jinn are said to have a very long lifespan that can reach thousands of years. They are also gifted with many supernatural powers beyond our ability to imagine, such as flight, shape-shifting, teleportation, travel through space, and many more. Now, with that being said, Jinn are not invincible, and just like humans, they age, get sick, and die, and can also be harmed, imprisoned, or even killed. They have emotions, desires, and purposes, and according to tradition, Jinn do need to eat, drink, and sleep in order to survive. Now, the word Jinn in Arabic literally means concealed or hidden from sight. So basically, their name refers to their nature and explains many of the beliefs and stories associated with them. The male Jinn is called Genie, and the female Jinn is known as Jinniya. One more thing to mention here is that Jinn are not the same as spirits or ghosts. In fact, the idea of a dead person who comes back to life as a ghost or spirit doesn't really exist in Arabic culture. So, without further ado, let's have a look at the different types and races of Jinn. Starting with the Shaitan. Shaitan is a general term that refers to any evil or rebellious Jinni that incites humans to sin and fall into temptation by inducing or planting wicked thoughts into our minds. The word Shaitan is roughly translated as a demon or devil, but it can also mean an evil or mischievous person. The leader or king of all Shaitans is known as Iblis, who is considered the counterpart of Satan in Christianity. And by the way, maybe you've noticed how similar the word Shaitan and the word Satan are. And this is because they're both derived from the Hebrew word Satan, which means one who plots against another or one who opposes. At number 9, we have the Arabic version of the night demon, Al-Jathum. Jathum is an evil Jinn associated with sleep paralysis. And just like other legends and myths associated with this phenomenon, Jathum is said to sit on the chest of its victim while they sleep, and when they wake up, they find themselves unable to move or speak. This can cause them to hear strange noises or feel as if something is touching them. In Middle Eastern folklore, Al-Jathum is also believed to be responsible for insomnia and unpleasant dreams. This is why it is sometimes referred to as Kabus, which literally means nightmare in Arabic. Number 8. Amir, or the resident Jinn. A type of Jinn known to inhabit human houses, often living in bathrooms, basements, and storage rooms. Amir can also be found near ruins, public toilets, and garbage dumps, where they appear as black dogs or cats. Now, this type of Jinn is said to be harmless and would usually mind its own business. However, according to some urban traditions, you should be careful when pouring hot water in bathrooms or outside your house, as well as when throwing stones in the wilderness, since this may harm the Jinn. If that happens, they will seek revenge. They may harm you physically, so you'll suddenly find scratches, burns, and marks on your skin out of nowhere. They may set your house on fire, move furniture around, or even possess your body and drive you crazy. Number 7. Al-Jinn Al-Ashiq, or the Lover Jinn. a type of jinn, male or female, that seeks to have a romantic or intimate relationship with humans. This can be out of lust, curiosity, or pure love. So they're similar to demons of lust in Western folklore, like the incubus and the succubus, but much worse. According to the legend, a lover Genie would follow its victims everywhere they go, ruining their relationships or marriages, and making them feel drained, exhausted, and depressed all the time. It would also appear in their dreams, influence their thoughts, and sometimes possess them and take control over their minds and actions. Number 6. Ad-Dilhab is a malicious jinn said to inhabit the sea, appearing to sailors as a human-like being covered with algae. In ancient Arabian myths, Ad-Dilhab was believed to attack small boats, drown people, and create sea fog that would cause ships to lose their way for days. Number 5. Al-Rasad, a powerful type of jinn who guards hidden treasures and is said to harm anyone who dares to get close to his domain. He often takes the form of a black snake or scorpion, but can also appear as a cloud of white or red smoke. There are so many urban legends and stories associated with the Rasad. These stories often involve treasure hunters who either lost their minds or suffered severe burns after encountering this Genie. Despite how dangerous Rasad is, there are 3 ways to prevent him from harming you. 1. Reciting Quranic verses and religious hymns, which can literally burn him. 2. Ask the help of a magician who will use some secret magic rituals to make a deal with the Rasad. 3. Offering red mercury, a legendary magical substance that is said to be Jinn's favorite food. 4. Sela is a malicious female jinn that disguises herself as an attractive woman to seduce men and lure them deep into the desert before devouring them. Despite her impressive shape-shifting abilities, Sela cannot appear fully human and is always depicted as having animal features, such as hooves or horns. A more modern version of the myth describes Sela as a jinn witch with the power to control wind and lightning. She lives among humans, enjoys what we enjoy, and would even help people if they ask her to. In this version, Sela also takes the form of a charming and beautiful young woman, but this time to seduce men into marrying her and starting a family. So here, Sela is not purely evil and is more like a nature spirit than a demonic entity. Number 3. The boogeyman of Arabian folklore. The Ghoul. The Ghoul is a type of evil jinn in the form of a hideous monster that inhabits graveyards and feeds on corpses. Other stories describe the Ghoul as a shape-shifting demon that lurks deep in the desert or near ruins and abandoned places. It often takes the form of a hyena before attacking unwary travelers. Ghouls may also appear as someone you know, like a friend or family member, to deceive you into lowering your guard and then attack you or steal from you. Yet, in another more interesting version, ghouls are believed to be fallen jinn, who once tried ascending to the heavens to spy on angels, but were hit by a comet or meteor as a punishment. After falling from heaven, they lost most of their powers and were doomed to roam the earth as hideous, ever-hungry monsters for the rest of their lives. Number 2. Marids. In Islamic tradition, Marid is the name given to the highest and most powerful class of shaitans or demons. They are rebellious, arrogant, jealous, and always evil. It is said that a shaitan turns into a Marid after rebelling against God, committing major sins, and living long enough to learn all the secrets of black magic and forbidden knowledge, thus becoming powerful and wicked enough to be referred to as Marid. So you could say that a Marid is a rank equivalent to an archdemon. In Arabian mythology, however, Marids are seen as a powerful type of jinn associated with water, and sometimes referred to as sea jinn. They are described as giant humanoid beings capable of predicting the future and granting wishes to people. Of course, their services are not free and are only possible if you offer something in return. So it's like making a pact with the devil. Number 1. Afreets, the masters of fire and the most powerful and ruthless type of Jinn. The Afreet is known to be very clever and wise, but at the same time cunning and easily angered. Unlike the demonic Marad, who's always evil, the Afreet can be benevolent, loyal, and helpful. A male Afreet is called Afreet, while a female Afreet is known as Afreeta. They are divided into tribes and clans and live in a society ruled by kings and queens. Being the most powerful type of Jinn, Afreets are said to possess unique powers, like total fire control, spell casting, mind reading, controlling inanimate objects, assuming any form they wish, and even the ability to change humans into animals. Unlike other types of Jinn, Afreets cannot be controlled or imprisoned by humans, and the only way to summon one is by making a deal, which often comes at a great cost, like one's own freedom or even life. Jinn are classified into 4 main races based on their nature and abilities: Fire Jinn, Earth Jinn, Aquatic Jinn, and Air Jinn. Fire Jinn are considered to be the most powerful and dangerous race of Jinn, and are believed to be the first Jinn to inhabit the earth. They have colors resembling flames, such as red, yellow, orange, and blue, with red being the most powerful. Earth Jinn are the most common race of Jinn. They live in human houses, caves, abandoned places, and underground passages. They're known for their craftsmanship and the ability to move quickly through soil, cracks, and underground spaces. Aquatic Jinn reside underwater and rarely interact with humans. They're known for their exceptional intelligence and vast knowledge. Aquatic Jinn usually appear in the form of sea creatures and are said to have the power to create sea fog, steam, and water waves. Finally, Air Jinn, a winged race of Jinn. They're considered to be the fastest, but at the same time, the weakest race of Jinn.
So you might have noticed that is far more intricate than what McCoy had written down in his little encyclopedia here. And I'm probably going to say that a lot, so I apologize, get used to it. But in terms of looking at this whole, Genie, spelled Jeannie, that's not actually how it's spelled in this particular video, but I do think it's just like that whole idea of like, well, I'm Western, so I'm going to Westernize this, or I have Western ideology in my head, so I'm going to Westernize the spelling of this particular thing, which is not something we need to be doing. Actually, we probably should stick to we should actually stick to saying what it is and spelling it how it's actually supposed to be spelled. So it is possible that Edain just misheard it, but I think it is important to keep in mind. However, if we are discussing these types of things and, the idea of, keeping correct, then there is actually a Genie involved in folklore, but that would be the Genie of Mulgrave Wood. So, like I said, going far afield, actually, looking at these things and talking about them in context when they come up in the encyclopedia versions, I'm actually going to put in a segment here now from Myth Great Britain, and he will tell the actual tale of a real genie, or I should say, the actual genie, not linked to the Jinn.
Welcome back, my friend. It's always good to see you. Please join me, grab a drink, and let me tell you the tale of Jeannie, the Bogle of Mulgrave Wood. In the ancient tale I shall now recount, we find ourselves immersed in the intriguing world of Genie, a peculiar creature dwelling within the depths of a cavern known as Hobbs Cave. This mystical enclave was nestled snugly in the heart of a small valley bearing the name of Biggersdale, residing quietly amidst the Mulgrave woods near the hamlet of Sands End, near Whitby, Yorkshire. Jeannie, the subject of local folklore, was often referred to as a fairy possessing an infamously ill-tempered disposition. Considering the appellation bestowed upon her abode and her vehement aversion to any form of disturbance, one might surmise that she bore closer resemblance to a hob or even a witch. The hardships endured by neighbouring farmers were conveniently attributed to Jeannie, thus justifying her longing for a reclusive existence. The residents of the area, cognizant of the dire consequences that would surely befall them, wisely chose to leave Jeannie undisturbed within her solitary domain. However, fate would soon intercede when a young lad by the name of John Rowe, driven by a fanciful belief that Jeannie was not merely a malevolent being, but rather a beautiful fairy in need of love and companionship to mend her acrimonious nature, embarked on a quest to locate her one evening. Following a day's toil on the farm, John mounted his steed and set forth into the depths of Mulgrave Woods, his determination unwavering. The precise whereabouts of Jeannie's abode remained a mystery, prompting John to traverse a dense woodland in search of her sanctuary. Not far from the decaying ruins of an ancient castle, he stumbled upon the narrow gorge that bore the name of Biggersdale. Dismounting from his trusty steed, he cautiously began scrambling along the treacherous path it carved. After a time, his tenacity bore fruit, as he chanced upon a sizable cave, its entrance adorned with remnants of a fire and other telltale signs of habitation. Drawing closer to the cavern's mouth, John suddenly found himself confronted by a hairy and formidable figure brandishing a lengthy wand. This fearsome creature emitted an ear-piercing shriek as it bolted forth from the depths of the cave, leaving John paralysed with terror. In an instinctual surge of adrenaline, he turned and fled for his life, with Jeannie in swift pursuit. John raced through the verdant woodland. Jeannie steadily closed the distance between them. In this dire moment, a fragment of wisdom imparted by his grandmother surfaced in his mind, a notion that malevolent spirits could not traverse swiftly flowing water. With this glimmer of hope, John steered his course towards a low cliff positioned perfectly for his horse to make a daring leap across a ravine known as Mickleby Beck, thus securing their safety. Approaching the beck's edge, Jeannie loomed ever closer, clawing and scratching at the steed's hindquarters, desperately attempting to unseat John from his mount. Undeterred, John urged his steed forward, and in their audacious leap across the ravine, Jeannie struck the horse with her wand, snuffing out its life in an instant. The lifeless creature tumbled into the beck's depths, while John was propelled onto the safety of the opposite bank. Collecting himself, John surveyed his surroundings, witnessing Jeannie's vengeful shrieks emanating from the far side of the beck. Overwhelmed with a mixture of exhaustion and distress, he mustered the remaining strength within him and fled, hastening towards a comforting embrace of his humble farmstead. Breathless and deeply traumatized, he found himself incapable of recounting his harrowing experience until the following day. Since that fateful encounter, no soul has dared to venture forth in search of Jeannie or her enigmatic cavern concealed within the depths of Mulgrave Woods.
So, before we move on to the next creature in this book, I do have to make a little bit of a correction. I had to do a double check on McCoy just to see where they came from, because that I wasn't actually aware of. And it turns out that McCoy is a female, not actually male. I was saying the pronouns wrong, forgive me. Couldn't really find much on her except that she died in 2019, it looked like. But she was from Indiana and was a self-initiated witch in 1981 and was part of the pagan community since her formal initiation in 1983. So it's probably safe to say that most of the stuff that she was reading and delving into at the time were extremely whitewashed, like I said in the introduction, and cobbled together pieces of basically everybody's magic, which is actually a very dangerous thing, but I'm not going to go into that part of it. I'm just going to stick to our little creatures and giving you the more correct iteration of themselves. But the next one we have here is the Alven. And according to McCoy, their land of origin is the Netherlands. The other origins are unknown, and their other names are the Ottermanner. The element is water. The appearance and temperament. Alvens have bodies that are so light as to make them almost invisible. They are not winged fairies, but they can travel through the air by becoming encased in a water bubble. Occasionally they will show themselves while wearing the skins of otters. Their malice towards humans extends only to those who choose to desecrate their homes and sacred plants. Most time active is at night. Their lore is the Alvens are creatures of the moon under whose light they dance and play. They are water fairies who live in ponds, lakes, and rivers, but the river Elbe is sacred to them, and in it they make their principal home. They cherish night-blooming plants and will harm any human who attempts to pick or destroy them. Fish are their only known enemies, and they prefer to live in water enclosures where there are none. Where to find them? In the river Elbe, as easy journey on the inner plane. How to contact? Look for them in fairyland and try approaching them as a friend, someone who also loves the moon and nature. Magical and ritual help. Undetermined, but they might be useful in protective and healing spells for a night-blooming garden or for a marine environment. Again, I can't remember everything from the little snippet that we're going to be talking about, but I'm going to turn it over now to the mythology niche so that they can give you a more well-rounded account of these fairies.
The Alven are one of the most mysterious and lesser-known fae beings in European folklore, particularly from Dutch and Flemish traditions. Unlike the tiny, winged fairies we often think of in popular culture, the Alven are ethereal water spirits deeply connected to rivers, lakes, and the natural world. Their presence in folklore speaks to an ancient belief in nature spirits, and their stories reflect the respect, and sometimes fear, that people had for the unpredictable forces of water. The Alven were described as shadowy, elusive beings, nearly invisible to the human eye. They didn't have wings, but they could move through the air in mist-like forms, appearing above the waters and vanishing into the night. They were not known for the mischievous tricks commonly associated with other fae, but were often portrayed as guardians of their natural realms, especially the waters they inhabited. In particular, the river Elbe was said to be the domain of the Alven, a sacred place where they would manifest, protecting the waters and maintaining the balance of nature. One story that reflects their nature comes from the area surrounding the Elbe River. Fishermen and villagers often whispered of the Alven's protective powers. If someone tried to pollute or disturb the waters, whether through waste or overfishing, they would be punished by the Fae spirits. In one tale, a fisherman, tired of being unsuccessful, threw his nets into the river at night, hoping for a good catch. But the next day, when he tried to haul in his nets, they were too heavy, filled not with fish but with rocks. The villagers believed that the Alven had punished him for disturbing their sacred waters, teaching him a lesson about balance and respect. The Alven's affinity with water also extended to their control over tides and currents. One story tells of a group of travelers who were caught in a violent storm near the river Elbe. Despite the waves crashing around them, the travelers saw a small, glowing figure standing on the water's surface, undisturbed by the turmoil. The figure's calming presence was said to have controlled the currents, guiding the travelers to safety. This legend portrays the Alven as not just protectors, but also as powerful beings with the ability to influence the natural world, particularly in moments of human vulnerability. Perhaps the most enchanting aspect of the Alven is their connection to moonlight. Folklore speaks of them dancing upon the river's surface under the moon, their bodies blending seamlessly with the mist. These moonlit dances were said to be an otherworldly spectacle, witnessed by only a few mortals brave enough to venture near the river at night. One particular story tells of a young man who, entranced by the moonlight shimmering on the water, wandered too close to the river's edge and saw the Alven dancing. He fell under their spell, and for days afterward, he could think of nothing else but the figures he had seen on the river's surface. His obsession led him to stay near the river, longing for another glimpse, until he eventually vanished, becoming another lost soul of the river. These stories reflect the themes of danger and beauty that the Alven embodied. They were not necessarily malevolent but existed as guardians of their domain, only punishing those who disrupted the natural order. Their mystical nature reminds us of the ancient belief that nature itself could wield power over human affairs. As we continue to revere the rivers, lakes, and waters of our world, we find echoes of these old stories, where spirits like the Alven once moved with the tides and the winds, ensuring balance in the world around us. Though their tales are not as widely known as those of other Fae, the Alven's connection to water, the moon, and nature's balance continues to inspire awe. They remind us that the forces of nature, often unseen and unpredictable, are as powerful as they are beautiful. And much like the Fae of other traditions, the Alven's presence in folklore serves as a timeless symbol of respect for the natural world, urging us to remember the delicate balance between humankind and the forces that lie just beyond our understanding.
A note here in regards to the Otter Manor part of this particular thing when it comes to the Alven. I looked online to see if there was anything that would prove that that was another name that they went by, and I couldn't find anything. The one source that I did find, I do believe, was just a regurgitation of something that McCoy had written here in this book. And like I said before, that is something that we need to steer away from and actually need to have open discourse about when we're talking about putting things back in their place. So there obviously doesn't seem to be any kind of, lore that says that the Alven can't turn into otters, but obviously that doesn't seem to be the main crux of their folklore. It is possible that what she actually meant was Otter Man, which is a mythology from the Tlingit tribe of the Pacific Northwest, which, that is nowhere near Dutch. Completely different culture as well. Completely different. So this doesn't have anything to do with the Dutch brought over all of their folklore and that's how we got this. No. This is something completely different. So I am actually going to turn this segment over to All Monsters Go to Space, and I'm going to let them explain to you about the Otter Men.
Hi there guys, I'm Danny. Today I'm bringing you a video on the Kushtaka from Tlingit and Tsimshian lore in the Pacific Northwest coast of America. These creatures are shapeshifters who primarily take the form of large otters, but can also take human form on occasion, especially those of loved ones. These beings are said to have a cruel nature and would lure people to their deaths. They could emulate the screams or the cry of babies and lure sailors off their course to die of exposure or drowning. The Kushtaka would also lure away children, much like the Kalupalik. They would also lure people away to their underwater homes and somehow turn them into Kushtakas themselves. Another act of cruelty that these beings would enact is that they would take away the person's ability to be reincarnated. But there are just as many tales of them being the exact opposite of this, and having a kind and benevolent nature. They would come across lost people and help them get back to civilization, or prevent them from dying by turning them into a falak. This means that they can withstand the cold, although this may not be a reversible thing, as they could only be truly saved by a shaman. Now the Kushtakas are closely linked to shamans. It's said that if a person is able to survive an encounter with a Kushtaka and return home by themselves, they then become a prime candidate to become a shaman. The Kushtaka's enemy is the dog, and its bark will scare the creature into revealing its true form. If you wanted to protect yourself and your homes from them, there are a few things that you can use. Dogs obviously being the main one, but also fire, urine and copper. These creatures can be found in a few pieces of modern literature. They're in Pamela Ray Hudson's Transformation Masks and Legends in Wood, Stories of the Totems. Garth Stein featured one in Stole the Moon. In the short story The Strangest Story Ever Told by Harry D. Culp, he writes of a miner's encounter with one. One is featured in an Alaskan set horror story called Kushtaka, written by David Pierre Dominica, I'm sorry if I've butchered that name, and in Hold the Dog by William Giraldi. Anne McCaffrey's second novel, The Twins of Petterby series, specifically Maelstrom, one of the characters can turn into a deep-sea otter and actually calls himself a Kushtaka. And Bill Schweigert uses one as his main antagonist in The Beast of Barcroft.
So the next entity we are going to talk about here is called the Ankou. Now, the land of origin, according to McCoy, is Brittany. Other origins, the Ankou is part of the fairy lore of Cornwall and Wales, and is deeply a part of Irish mythology. Other names include Death, the Grim Reaper, Father Time. A personified version of death is part of the folklore of many cultures, yet there is no evidence to suggest that any of these beings were ever worshipped as death gods. Element. Ankou, like the deities, is part of all elements, including the elusive fifth element, spirit. Appearance and temperament. Ankou is the personification of death who comes to collect the souls of passed-over humans. He is male, dark, and rather Dickensian, with his black-robed costume pulled up high about his head. No one living has ever seen his face, for to do so would be to die. Ankou shows no interest in humans or their lives. He merely does his job. Most time active, all year. Lore. Ankou came to Ireland from the Celtic lore of Brittany in northern France, where he has largely been forgotten. The Irish term for physical death, aumbes, is rarely used to refer to the entity of death, but rather the state of death. Ankou drives a black cart, though some say it is really a small coach or even a hearse, drawn by 4 black horses, in which he comes to collect the souls of those recently passed over and escort them into the land of the dead. In Ireland's country, Roscommon, there is a documented story of a mother and daughter who would hear the coach pass by their cottage each night around midnight, accompanied by beautiful fairy music. Although they could hear the music and the rattle of carriage wheels, they could never see a thing. An old Irish proverb says, "When Ankou comes, he will not go away empty." In Ireland, Ankou is always classified as a fairy rather than a ghost or some other type of spirit, and he is given more of a personality than he is accorded in many other lands. In this, he is more like the Death of the modern movies, such as Death Takes a Holiday or On Borrowed Time. Where to find him? Unknown. How to contact? Contact not advised. Magical or ritual help. If you see him out on his travels, you need not fear. Stand away at a respectful distance and watch to help gain an understanding of the meaning of physical death. So while some of this is correct, most of it is incorrect.
Have you ever heard the creaking of a wagon in the night, accompanied by the howl of the wind and the cry of souls in mourning? In the misty lands of Brittany, where the waves murmur ancestral legends, a spectral figure lurks in the mist, the Ankou, the herald of death. His inverted scythe marks the end of the road, and his hearse, drawn by skeletal oxen, transports the souls of the departed to their final destination. Facing the Ankou is an encounter with the inevitable, a macabre dance where death equals all. Do you dare to enter the darkness and discover the secrets of the Ankou? In a forgotten corner of Lower Brittany, where the fog hangs like a cloak over the fields and forests, the Ankou lurks on the threshold between life and death. This being, known in Celtic mythology as the collector of souls, moves silently among the living, invisible to the eyes of those who have not yet been called by fate. The Ankou is not a cruel being, but rather a guardian, a guide who accompanies souls on their final journey. With each step he takes, the leaves fall in a whisper, and the wind carries with it the echo of his presence. Although some fear it, others find solace in the idea that they will not be alone when they cross to the other side. According to accounts, the Ankou was a shadowy specter, with a black cloak hiding his face and a sharp scythe in his hand. But beyond its frightening appearance, it represented a fundamental aspect of Celtic cosmology, the eternal cycle of life and death. The ancient Celts believed that death was not an end, but a new beginning. The Ankou was charged with facilitating that transition, guiding souls across the threshold into an unknown realm. It was said to have emerged from the depths of the other world, a place of mystery and darkness where the souls of the departed resided. It was rumored that the Ankou was once human, the last deceased of the year in his community, and that now, transformed, he wandered the region he once called home, collecting the recently departed and ensuring that each spirit found its way and was not trapped in limbo. In time immemorial, when the Druids were the guardians of knowledge and the oak forests were sacred, the figure of the Ankou was already present in legends and myths. He was said to take the form of a walking skeleton, dressed in a long black cloak that billowed as he passed as if accompanied by an eternal wind. In his bony hand he wielded a sharp sickle, the edge of which glowed with an ominous glow. Some villagers swore to have seen the Ankou wandering the lonely paths on moonless nights, while others claimed to have heard the echo of his footsteps resounding in abandoned graveyards. His presence heralded the end of a life, and his arrival was inevitable for all mortal beings. Occasionally, villagers would witness the Ankou pause at the bedside of a dying person. Some swore they saw a subtle bowing of its skeletal head as a gesture of respect for the departing soul. "What's wrong, Grandma? Why does your gaze wander off into the distance?" asked a girl with concern. The old woman smiled sadly and answered, "I have seen the Ankou, my little one. He has come to fetch your sick uncle. Soon his soul will take the journey to the other world. Although his presence instilled fear, the Ankou was treated with great respect by the Celts. It was believed that offending him or refusing his call would bring grave consequences, such as a curse on the family or the entire village. On nights of the full moon, when the silvery glow filtered through the bare branches of the trees, some mothers would tell stories of the Ankou to their children, warning them of the need to respect the dead and honor their ancestors. According to Celtic legend, the Ankou was not an eternal being but was chosen from among the living each year. On the night of Samhain, the Celtic celebration of the end of summer, a man of the people was designated as the new Ankou. No one knew for certain how the Ankou was chosen, for it was a mystery jealously guarded by the ancient Druids. Some said he was the first to set foot in the cemetery after midnight, while others believed he was the last to leave the Samhain celebration. It was said that a young villager named Bran once witnessed the election of the Ankou during the Samhain festival. As the bonfires burned and the chants echoed into the night, Bran watched as an elderly druid approached the fire with a carved wooden bowl containing the names of all the men in the village. One of them would be chosen as the new Ankou, the messenger of death for the coming year. In the twilight of the night, when only the sound of the wind breaks the silence, the Ankou was preparing for his round. His chariot, the car and Ankou, was a relic of ancient times, built of wood that had heard the secrets of millennia and iron forged in the flames of countless bonfires. The horses that pulled the chariot were not creatures of flesh and blood, but spirits that had accepted the burden of transporting souls. Their footsteps were so light that they left no trace, and their trot was so smooth that not even the most delicate of flowers would bend in their wake. The cart carried with it the weight of souls, but it was not a physical weight. It was the weight of untold stories, of unfulfilled dreams, of loves and losses. Each soul that boarded the cart left behind its earthly life and embarked on a journey into the unknown. The Ankou, with his scythe always in hand, was not an executioner but a gatherer. He did not cut down on life but freed souls from their earthly bonds. His scythe, blade outward, was not an instrument of fear but of liberation. As the chariot moved forward, the sound of its movement, the wig-ha-wag, became a melody to those who were ready to depart. It was not a sound of warning but a call, an invitation to undertake the last journey with peace and serenity. And so, night after night, the Ankou and his chariot traveled the roads between worlds, fulfilling a cycle as old as time itself. At each stop, a new soul joined the journey, and the chariot moved on, eternal and constant in its purpose. The Ankou was a herald of death with 1,000 faces. In Celtic mythology, he was known for his ability to change shape, adapting to the circumstances and the people he visited. Some saw him as a frail-looking old man with a gaze that transcended time and space, while others described him as a skeleton representing the finality of life. In the darkness of night, the Ankou could appear as a fleeting shadow, barely discernible in the corner of the eye. At other times, he would manifest himself more clearly, displaying his scythe and hat, unmistakable signs of his authority over the souls he collected. Despite his changing appearance, there was one thing that remained constant: his head, which turned endlessly, surveying every corner of his territory. This ability allowed him to be aware of every departing soul, ensuring that no soul was left behind. The Ankou did not judge, he did not punish, he simply did his duty. His presence was a reminder that life is transitory and that each moment should be cherished. For those who saw it, the Ankou was not an omen of fear but a symbol of an inevitable transition. In Celtic tradition, the Ankou was not a fixed entity, but a spirit that changed as the years passed. It was said that the last deceased of each year in a community became the Ankou of that locality for the coming year. This belief radiated the close relationship between the living and the dead, and how death was seen not as an absolute end, but as a transition and a shared responsibility. Each year's Ankou carried with him the memories of his past life, but also the solemnity of his new task. His role was vital, as he ensured that the souls of the recently departed were properly collected and guided. Thus, the legend was told that on a moonless night, when the wind moaned through the bare trees, a humble peasant received an unexpected visit from the Ankou. The specter appeared before him, offering him the opportunity to become his successor. The peasant, terrified at first, hesitated before the daunting task. But something in the Ankou's vacant gaze convinced him to accept his fate, perhaps the weight of Celtic tradition or the recognition that we are all subject to the endless cycle of life and death. From that moment on, his life changed forever. The farmer left his home and his family, leaving behind his old existence to assume a much more transcendental role. He became the new Ankou, the guardian of souls and the guide to the other world. The figure of the Ankou, therefore, was a reflection of the community itself. Each Ankou was unique, carrying with him the characteristics and spirit of the person he was. Through this annual rotation, the figure of the Ankou remained ever closer and more personal to those who continued on the earthly plane. With each departing soul, the Ankou renewed its commitment to the community, serving as a bridge between worlds and keeping the cycle of life and death in balance. The Ankou has done its work. The souls have been guided to their final destination, and the mist swallows its mournful figure. In the silence left by its passing, a question is left echoing in the air. Are we prepared to face our end?
So, as you can see, the Ankou is more of a Chiron type character, more of a farrier than someone who is actually death or Thanatos, which is a death deity. And I do think it is very important to take a moment to look at some of these other ones that were just kind of casually tossed into the mix here when McCoy was talking about Ankou, because the other names were given for Death or the Grim Reaper or Father Time. And while Death and the Grim Reaper could be argued to be seen as death deities, with the Grim Reaper being, of course, a personification or amalgamation of certain types of traits of death gods and goddesses, Father Time is completely different and separate. Of course, the whole idea of time is the passage of it, and the one who wields, the sickle as your time slowly ticks by to its end, but it isn't the same thing. So I do think it is very important to have that distinction. And I'm going to turn it over to a few more creators here as they explain the differences therein.
It is said that there are only two guarantees in life: taxes and death. This is Pantheon mythology, and these are the gods of death from across mythology. A quick clarification before we begin: we'll not only focus on Grim Reaper type entities who are responsible for taking lives, but also those that are associated with death, the underworld, and the afterlife. Right, let's begin. In the shadowed halls of the Egyptian afterlife, Anubis, with his iconic jackal head, presides with solemn dignity. As the god of mummification, he meticulously oversees the embalming process, ensuring that the rites are performed with precision. This preparation is crucial, for it preserves the body, enabling the departed to live again in the afterlife. Guiding the souls of the deceased, Anubis leads them from the Hall of Mart, where a ceremony critical to their eternal destiny unfolds. Here, in a ritual known as the Weighing of the Heart, Anubis plays a pivotal role. With a feather symbolizing Mart, the goddess of truth and justice, placed on the side of the scales, and the heart of the deceased on the other, Anubis ensures that the scales are balanced. Only those whose hearts are as light as a feather, free of corruption and heavy deeds, can proceed. Anubis, therefore, is not merely a protector, but a judge, a guardian of ethical order. His presence ensures that those entering the realm of Osiris do so by virtue of their moral integrity. This belief underscored the Egyptian conviction that ethical conduct was essential for a favorable judgment in the afterlife. Beyond his roles in protection and judgment, Anubis also represents a comforting presence. To the ancient Egyptians, he was a reassuring figure, guiding loved ones safely through the perils of the underworld, ensuring that the virtuous found their place beside Osiris. Once a revered mortal king of Egypt, Osiris' story is a poignant tale of betrayal, murder, and ultimate resurrection. His legend begins with his brother Set's jealousy and treachery, which led to Osiris being deceitfully killed and dismembered. It was Isis, his devoted wife, who reassembled his body and brought him back to life using her magical powers. This act of resurrection by Isis not only restored Osiris but transformed him into the god of the afterlife, embodying the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. As the god of resurrection, Osiris became a beacon of hope and renewal. He assures his followers of a rebirth in the afterlife, a promise that resonated deeply with the Egyptians' beliefs in immortality and the eternal soul. His domain extends beyond the mere concept of death. He is deeply intertwined with the fertility and regeneration of life, mirroring the annual flooding of the Nile, which brings nourishment and richness to the otherwise barren deserts of Egypt. In the realm of the dead, Osiris presides as a just and benevolent king, judging the souls of the deceased with fairness. His own resurrection allows him to empathize with the fears and hopes of those who pass into his kingdom, making him a compassionate ruler who values moral integrity over mere ritual observances. Osiris's influence permeates various aspects of Egyptian culture, from religious rituals to the very kingship itself. Pharaohs were often regarded as incarnations of Osiris in life and death, embodying his virtues and responsibilities. In the pantheon of Greek mythology, Thanatos is not a fearsome reaper, but the serene and inevitable personification of death. As the son of Nyx, the night, and Erebus, the darkness, Thanatos represents the peaceful aspect of death. Unlike the violent ends often meted out by his peers in myth, Thanatos brings a quietus that is both gentle and unavoidable. Portrayed as a winged and youthful figure, Thanatos is often depicted with a calm, almost compassionate demeanor. His approach is not one of terror but of tranquility, serving as a reminder that death is a natural part of life that should not always be feared. This characterization sets him apart from other death deities who might revel in the chaos and destruction associated with their realms. Thanatos' duties involve guiding the deceased to the underworld, a task he performs with respect for fate and destiny. Rarely acting alone, he is often accompanied by his twin brother, Hypnos, the god of sleep, underscoring the gentle passage he facilitates, likened more to falling asleep than being taken away. In myths where he appears, Thanatos is shown as obedient to the fates, never taking a life before its natural end. This obedience highlights his role within the cosmic order of the Greek universe, ensuring that death happens according to the natural laws and not through arbitrary cruelty or malice. Hades is often cast in the shadows, not as a malevolent figure, but as the solemn and just ruler of the underworld. As the eldest son of the Titans Cronus and Rhea, Hades was allotted the domain of the underworld after the overthrow of his father, ruling over the dead with a fairness that was respected even among the gods. Hades' realm is not a place of torment, but a final resting place for all souls, whether they were valiant heroes or common folk. His kingdom is vast and includes the Elysian Fields, a paradisiacal area reserved for the virtuous, and Tartarus, where punishment is meted out to the wicked. This dichotomy in his kingdom reflects Hades' balanced approach to judgment, emphasizing his role as a more neutral figure than one of pure dread. Despite popular portrayals that merge his identity with that of a devilish overlord, Hades is depicted in mythology as a stoic and rule-abiding figure, deeply committed to the order and laws of the cosmos. His rare ventures away from the underworld are marked by significant mythological events, such as the abduction of Persephone, which explains the seasons according to Greek lore. Persephone's tale is a narrative of duality and transition, embodying the link between the seen and unseen worlds. As the daughter of Demeter, the goddess of harvest and agriculture, and Zeus, the king of the gods, Persephone was initially the goddess of spring, a being of growth and renewal. Her life took a dramatic turn when she was abducted by Hades and taken to the underworld, an act that led to her becoming its queen. This transition from maiden to queen highlights her dual nature. In the underworld, Persephone rules alongside Hades with a quiet authority, respected by the dead and the deities of the underworld alike. Her time in the underworld marks the winter months on Earth, where the land lies barren, reflecting her absence from the world above. Yet Persephone's return to the surface each spring initiates the cycle of life anew, as her reunion with her mother Demeter brings about the blossoming of nature and fertility of the earth. The annual cycle led to her worship as a deity of resurrection and life, symbolizing the eternal return of life following the dormancy of winter. Persephone's story is also a tale of agency and adaptability. Over time, she evolves from a victim of fate to a powerful queen who mediates between worlds of the living and the dead. Her unique position allows her to navigate between both realms effectively, embodying the connection between birth and death, growth and decay. In Norse mythology, Hel occupies a singular space as the goddess presiding over Helheim, the cold and dreary realm of the dead. Daughter of Loki, the trickster god, and the giantess Angerboda, Hel's lineage is as complex as her domain. Half of her body alive and vibrant, and the other half dead and decayed. Her very appearance symbolizes the threshold between life and death. Helheim, unlike the fiery infernos of other mythologies' underworlds, is a bleak and misty place, reflecting the chill and isolation that characterizes the Norse view of the afterlife for those who did not die a heroic or notable death. It is here that Hel reigns with firm but fair control, overseeing those who arrive at her gates, neither punishing nor rewarding them, but simply giving them a place to exist after life. Her realm is vast and includes the dishonored and those who died of illness or old age, emphasizing that Helheim is not a place of torment, but rather a continuation of existence in a shadowed form. This nuanced view of the afterlife reflects the Norse belief in the importance of an honorable life and death. Despite her fearsome appearance and formidable heritage, Hel is often portrayed as a passive figure within her own realm, administering her duties without malice or favor. Her rule is marked by inevitability and acceptance, and she stands as a figure of natural order, ensuring that those who come to Helheim find their place in the world beyond. Odin, revered in Norse mythology, is the All-Father, holds dominion over war and wisdom, and uniquely serves as a guide for souls of slain warriors. As the chief of the Aesir gods, his presence is pivotal across the realms of life and death. Odin's dual role encompasses not just the orchestration of battles, but also the solemn duty of selecting and guiding those who fall heroically in combat to Valhalla, the Hall of the Slain. Valhalla, envisioned as a majestic, vast hall located in Asgard, serves as the final resting place for warriors deemed worthy by Odin. Here, these chosen warriors, known as Einherjar, prepare to aid the gods during the events of Ragnarok, the prophesied end of the world. This highlights Odin's strategic role in maintaining the balance and order of the cosmos, preparing for the future battles to come. Unlike many gods of war who are depicted merely as agents of chaos and destruction, Odin's association with death is marked by honor and nobility. He is often depicted as riding his eight-legged steed, Sleipnir, traversing the skies and battlefields to claim the souls of the valiant. This act is not one of mere collection, but a sacred duty to ensure that those who fought valiantly continue to have purpose beyond their mortal lives. Yama stands as a pivotal figure in the pantheons of Hindu and Buddhist traditions, embodying the roles of both the god of death and the ultimate judge of souls. Known as the Lord of Justice, Yama's responsibilities extend far beyond merely overseeing the end of life. He is the arbiter who determines the fate of the deceased based on their actions in the mortal world. In Hindu mythology, Yama is depicted as a stern but fair deity, mounted on a black buffalo, holding a lasso with which he binds a soul at the time of death. His domain, Yamaloka, is where the souls are brought to account for their deeds. Here, in his great hall of justice, Chitragupta, his scribe reads from the record of the deceased actions, and Yama passes judgment, deciding on whether the soul will face punishment, be reincarnated, or attain liberation, moksha. Yama's judgment is not arbitrary, but rooted in the laws of karma, the cosmic principle of actions and consequences. This makes him a unique figure of moral integrity and ethical rigor in mythology, respected and sometimes feared for his unyielding adherence to dharma, order and law. In Buddhist lore, Yama's role varies slightly. He's often depicted as a more fearsome figure, presiding over the Naraka or hell realms, ensuring that the karmic punishments are appropriately meted out. However, even in these traditions, Yama's primary function is not to punish indiscriminately, but to maintain cosmic justice, serving as a reminder of the moral weight of one's actions. In the vibrant, yet often somber tapestry of Aztec mythology, Mictlantecuhtli reigns as the formidable god of the dead, presiding over Mictlan, the deepest part of the underworld. His name, translating to Lord of Mictlan, conveys his dominion over this realm where the souls of the deceased undertake a challenging journey toward final rest. Mictlan is not merely a place of darkness and despair, but a realm of immense significance, where all except those who died in battle or childbirth would eventually descend. The journey to Mictlan, lasting 4 years, involved traversing obstacles such as vast rivers and mountain ranges, and was believed to be a reflection of the hardships faced in life. Mictlantecuhtli himself is often depicted with a skeletal body adorned with owl feathers and a necklace of human eyeballs, embodying the decay associated with death but also the authority of his rule. His appearance is stark, designed to remind the Aztecs of the inevitability of death and the importance of honoring those who have passed. As a deity, Mictlantecuhtli's role extends beyond merely overseeing the dead. He is a guardian of bones, the physical remnants of life, and a god who ensures the continuation of life cycles. His worship was marked by rituals that involved bloodletting and offerings, practices meant to appease his formidable nature and secure a safe passage for the souls of the dead. Mictlantecuhtli, known as the Lady of the Dead, is a central figure in Aztec mythology, reigning alongside her husband Mictlantecuhtli over the underworld realm of Mictlan. As the queen of this deep and vast domain, she plays a crucial role in the journey of the souls who enter her realm, ensuring their safe passage and eventual rest. Her portrayal, often skeletal like her husband and adorned with regal attire typical of Aztec nobility, reflects her authority and reverence with which she was regarded. Mictlantecuhtli's role goes beyond mere oversight. She's a guardian of the bones, the physical remains that are cherished and revered as seeds for new life in Aztec culture. Mictlantecuhtli's responsibilities include presiding over the ancient festivals of the dead, which have evolved into the modern Dia de los Muertos celebrations. These festivals, marked by vibrant decorations, offerings, and the celebration of life's continuity, are a testament to her enduring influence. During these times, it is believed that she grants the dead leave to return to the earthly realm to visit their loved ones, illustrating her role as mediator between the worlds of the living and the dead. Shinigami, in Japanese folklore, are ethereal beings akin to the gods of death. Their origins, while less defined than those of deities in other mythologies, are steeped in cultural nuances that reflect Japan's unique perspectives on death and the afterlife. As spirits of death, Shinigami hold the eerie responsibility of determining when a person's life ends and escorting their souls to the afterworld, which is often envisioned as a realm of deep spiritual significance. Shinigami can be seen as ambivalent figures. They are neither purely malevolent nor benevolent. Their primary role is to maintain the balance between life and death, ensuring that the cycle of existence adheres to the natural order. This involves influencing human mortality, sometimes by leading individuals to their deaths in the cases where the end of life is imminent or unavoidable. Shinigami are frequently depicted as entities with complex moral compasses, often involved in intricate stories where human lives intertwine with supernatural events. They appear in various forms, sometimes as ominous figures cloaked in traditional robes, at other times taking on more abstract forms that can be both fearsome and awe-inspiring. Their method of ferrying souls is particularly poignant. Shinigami do not merely guide spirits away from the earthly realm, but also offer reflection on their past lives. This process is not only a physical journey, but a spiritual passage that prepares the soul for what comes next, be it reincarnation or eternal rest. Baron Samedi, with his unmistakable top hat, black tailcoat, and skull-painted face, stands on the quintessential lure of the dead in Haitian voodoo. His dominion extends over the crossroads of where life meets death, making him a powerful figure in the spiritual pantheon, both revered and feared for his profound connection to the afterlife. Baron Samedi presides at the crossroads of the living and the dead, ensuring that souls transition safely to the underworld. His role is crucial. He is not only a guide, but also a protector who ensures that the dead are respected and that their final rites are properly performed. This care is vital for maintaining balance and preventing malevolent spirits from causing havoc among the living. Characterized by a boisterous, mocking personality, Baron Samedi is known for his crude humor and fondness for disruption. He's often depicted drinking rum, smoking large cigars, and using obscenely direct language, which, far from mere theatrics, serves as a reminder of the inevitability of death and the importance of living life to the fullest. In Roman mythology, Pluto is the authoritative god of the underworld, a figure synonymous with wealth and the hidden riches of the earth. While often equated with the Greek Hades, Pluto's portrayal emphasizes his dominion over the subterranean treasure of precious metals and fertile soil, rather than just the realm of the dead. This connection with wealth, derived from the Latin word plutus, meaning riches, highlights his dual role as both the overseer of the afterlife and the guardian of material abundance. As ruler of the underworld, Pluto is depicted as a more benign and less malevolent figure than might be expected of a deity overseeing the realm of the dead. His kingdom is not solely a place of darkness and despair, but also a domain of potential and renewal, symbolizing the cyclical nature of life and death, where endings give rise to new beginnings. The Morrigan, often referred to as the Phantom Queen, is one of the most enigmatic and powerful deities in Celtic mythology. Associated with war, fate, and sovereignty, she is both a figure of protection and destruction, embodying the dualities of life and death. The Morrigan's presence on the battlefield, often portrayed as a crow or raven, signifies her role as a harbinger of death, but also the guardian of the warriors, influencing the outcome of war. Her ability to transform into a crow or raven allows her to fly over battlefields, where she can be seen either instigating the fight or perching on the shoulders of those destined to die. This transformation underscores her connection to the otherworld and her ability to traverse between the realms of the living and the dead, reinforcing her role as a guide of souls. The Morrigan is not a singular entity, but is often described as a trio of sisters, which includes Badb, Macha, and sometimes Nemain or Anand. This triadic nature allows her to represent various aspects of battle, from the fury and chaos of conflict, represented by Badb, to the sovereignty and protection of the land, represented by Macha. In Welsh mythology, Aron holds a distinctive position as the god of the dead and ruler of Anon, a mystical and enigmatic realm often associated with peace and eternal rest, rather than torment. His domain is depicted as a paradisiacal land, abundant in food without sickness or old age, reflecting a nuanced perception of the afterlife that emphasizes continuity and comfort, rather than fear and punishment. Aron's rulership over Anon is marked by fairness and honor. He is a master of magic and keeper of many magical creatures, including his famous pack of white, red-eared hounds. These hounds, known for their haunting howls, roam the skies only during autumn and winter, hinting at Aron's control over the seasonal cycles and his connection to the natural world. Aron is not only a guide of souls from the physical world to Anun, but also a figure of retribution for moral transgressions. It is said that those who meet him are judged, and those found wanting are subjected to his corrections. However, these aspects are tempered by his role as a protector of the dead, ensuring that they find peace and resolution in his realm. Ereshkigal, in the pantheon of Mesopotamian deities, reigns supreme over the underworld, known as Irkala. As the queen of the great below, her dominion is characterized by its stark and inexorable nature, a realm where all souls, regardless of their earthly deeds, descend upon death. Her authority is absolute, making her one of the most respected and feared gods in Mesopotamian mythology. Her story is most vividly recounted in the myth of Inanna's descent to the underworld, where Ereshkigal plays a pivotal role. When Inanna, her sister and the goddess of love and war, descends into the underworld, it is Ereshkigal who presides over her trial and eventual death. This myth highlights Ereshkigal's dual nature. Though she is a strict and implacable ruler, she also upholds the laws of her domain with fairness and necessity. Ereshkigal's realm is not merely a place of darkness and decay, but also a site of transformation and renewal. It is under her stern governance that the dead are given their due respect, and the cosmic balance between life and death is maintained. Her role is essential, for the underworld is also a place of gestation, where the waters of life are born, and thus she is indirectly connected with the fertility of the earth. Nergal is a prominent deity in the ancient Mesopotamian religion, embodying the destructive forces of plague and war. Known for his fierce nature and formidable powers, he is also the consort of Ereshkigal, the queen of the underworld, which positions him as ruler in the realm of the dead. Nergal's dual aspects of both a war god and a god of disease highlight his role in upholding the balance between life and death. His influence extends beyond mere destruction, serving as a necessary force that enforces the end of life cycles, thereby maintaining cosmic order. Nergal is often depicted wielding a mace or sword, signifying his warrior aspects, and sometimes accompanied by symbols of death like lions or flames, underscoring his connection to both war and pestilence. Through his actions and attributes, Nergal represents the harsh but essential sides of existence, reminding adherents of the inevitability of death and the importance of respecting the divine forces that govern it. Chernobog, often referred to as the Black God, stands as a stark figure in Slavic mythology. His name, meaning Black God in Old Church Slavonic, encapsulates its associations with darkness, misfortune, and malevolence. As a deity of evil and the night, Chernobog embodies the antithesis of good and is often portrayed as a bringer of calamity and woe. This deity's role in mythology is characterized by his opposition to the forces of light and goodness, often represented by his counterpart, Belobog, the white god of light and goodness. Chernobog's presence is most notably acknowledged during the night and in the winter months when darkness prevails over the land. Depictions of Chernobog vary, but he is commonly portrayed as a fearsome, shadowy figure, embodying the dread and mysteries of the night. In some myths, he is described during rituals and folklore tales as a god who receives curses and ill wishes during festivals, symbolically taking on the community's evils to maintain balance. Arpuch, recognized among the ancient Maya as the god of death, presides over Mitnal, the darkest, deepest parts of Xibalba, the Maya underworld. This deity is often depicted with features that emphasize his dominion over death. Skeletal, with protruding ribs and an owl's head, or accompanied by owls, which were considered harbingers of death, his appearance is marked by bells that adorn his hair, signaling his presence with their mournful toll. As the ruler of Mitnal, Arpuch is associated with decay, destruction, and disaster. He was feared for his ability to bring about plagues and diseases, and the Maya believed that he roamed the night, announcing his presence with the sound of a howling dog, another creature connected with death in Maya lore. Arpuch's role extends beyond mere destruction. He's a crucial figure in the cycle of life and death. By overseeing the lowest level of the underworld, he is instrumental in the transition and transformation of souls after death, ensuring that they meet their fate according to the deeds of their mortal lives. Despite his fearsome attributes, Arpuch was also respected and sometimes propitiated with offerings to avoid his wrath and ensure protection against untimely death. Rituals involving him would often be performed with great care to appease his destructive nature, highlighting the complex relationship between the Maya and the forces of death and decay. Iku, in Yoruba mythology, embodies death itself, holding a pivotal role in the spiritual and cosmological framework of the Yoruba people. As the personification of death, Iku is both revered and feared, seen as an inevitable and natural aspect of life that brings balance to the human experience. Iku is not merely a bringer of demise, but also a necessary transition point for the soul's journey to the afterlife. His arrival is not arbitrary. It is believed that Iku only comes at the appointed time, decided by Olorun, the supreme god, and the Orishas, deities, thus ensuring that the cosmic order is maintained. This highlights the Yoruba belief in destiny and the predetermined nature of life and death. In Yoruba society, Iku is often portrayed as impartial and inevitable, ensuring that each individual meets their fate without prejudice. The Yoruba people engage in various rituals and ceremonies to honor and appease Iku, seeking to understand their destiny and find peace with the transition that death brings. Supay, in the traditional beliefs of the Andean region, especially among the Inca and local cultures, holds dominion as the god of the underworld and the personification of death. He is a powerful and multifaceted deity, ruling over the Uku Pacha, the inner world in Andean cosmology, which is both a place of rest for the dead and a source of minerals and gemstones. As the ruler of the underworld, Supé was both respected and feared. He was often depicted as a robust figure, formidable in appearance, embodying the dangers and darkness of the subterranean realms he controlled. This portrayal reflects his dual nature, as a guardian of the earth's riches and a stern ruler over the souls of the deceased. During the Inca Empire, Supé was associated with both protection and retribution, commanding a host of demons known as Supécuna to enforce his will within the dark corners of the earth. Despite his fearsome reputation, he was also recognized as a necessary part of the natural order, maintaining balance between the living world and the afterlife. Tuoni, in Finnish folklore, is the formidable god of the underworld, ruling over the dark and serene realm known as Tuonela. This shadowy domain, often depicted as a peaceful yet somber place, serves as the final resting place for souls. Unlike many other mythologies that depict the underworld as a place of torment, Tuonela is portrayed more as a place of eternal rest, reflecting the Finnish respect for death as a natural part of life. Tuoni himself is a figure of deep respect and intrinsic fear, embodying the inevitability of death. He is not alone in his duties. His family, including his wife, Tuonetar, and their children play crucial roles in the operation of the underworld. This family aspect highlights the communal nature of the Finnish afterlife, where the dead are welcomed and guided by familiar figures. In mythology, Tuoni is occasionally depicted in negotiations with other gods for interacting with heroes who venture into his realm, either to challenge him or seek his wisdom. These stories often serve as moral lessons about the nature of life and the futility of trying to escape death. Despite his grim responsibilities, Tuoni is not viewed purely as a malevolent deity. Rather, he is a necessary part of the world's structure, maintaining the balance between life and death. His presence and that of his family in Finnish mythology provide comfort in the knowledge that the afterlife is under watchful care of judicious custodians. Siddharpa is esteemed in Visayan mythology as the god who presides over the death of mortals, marking the time when each person's life will end. His dominion is not merely over the act of dying, but involves a deep connection with the fate and lifespan of individuals, indicating a complex role in the cosmic order. Residing on Mount Majas, the highest mountain in Panay, Siddharpa's abode is said to be a place where the divine intersects with the mortal world. From this lofty vantage, he is depicted as observing the lives of people, determining their longevity based on a sacred tree which the names of destinies of every person are inscribed. This imagery emphasizes his omnipresent and all-knowing nature, overseeing the natural progression of life and death. Giltine holds a poignant place in Lithuanian folklore as the grim and inevitable personification of death. Her depiction often parallels that of the Grim Reaper, featuring a skeletal figure clad in a cloak wielding a scythe. This iconography underscores her role as the harbinger who reaps the souls of the dying, guiding them from the mortal world to the afterlife. Traditionally, Giltine was not always seen as a fearsome or malevolent figure. Initially, her image was more nurturing, associated with a natural and necessary transition rather than a figure to be feared. Over time, and possibly under the influence of foreign mythologies and cultures, her portrayal evolved into a sterner, more ominous character. Giltine's duties extend beyond merely marking the end of life. She's involved in the process of death, ensuring that it occurs timely and justly, reflecting the natural order of life and the inevitability of death. Her presence in Lithuanian mythology serves as a reminder of mortality, encouraging people to live righteous lives to meet a peaceful end. Josung Saja plays a central role in Korean folklore as the divine emissary who escorts souls from the world of the living to the afterlife, known as Josung, a place akin to the Western concept of purgatory. Translated literally, Josung Saga means messenger of the world of the dead, reflecting his duties as a bridge between the two realms. Unlike the often fearsome depiction of the Grim Reaper, Josung Saja is portrayed as a more bureaucratic figure, part of a larger celestial administration that administers the afterlife. He's tasked with ensuring that all spirits comply with celestial laws, making sure that each soul is accounted for, and that they move on to the appropriate place based on their earthly deeds. Angra Mainyu, known as Ahriman, stands as the embodiment of destruction and darkness in Zoroastrian mythology. The principal adversary of Ahura Mazda, the god of light and wisdom, Angra Mainyu represents the antithesis of all that is good, pure, and progressive in the universe. His existence underscores the dualistic nature of Zoroastrianism, where every positive force is countered by a negative one, maintaining the balance of cosmic and moral order. Angra Mainyu is the source of all that is malevolent in the world. He brings chaos, suffering, and decay. He is not merely a destroyer, but also a corrupter, tainting the creation of Ahura Mazda by spreading lies and discord, influencing beings to stray from the path of truth and righteousness. This spiritual warfare manifests in the physical realm, influencing the moral choices of humanity and the natural events of the world. We're fortunate enough to be blessed with an almost countless number of deities associated with death, and I could be here for hours if not days, so apologies if I've missed any favourites. But as we've journeyed across the globe and through the ages exploring the enigmatic deities of death from a multitude of mythologies, we've seen how different cultures perceive and personify the end of life. These gods and goddesses are not just rulers of the underworld, they are symbols of justice, transformation, and the eternal cycle of life and death. Each deity brings a unique narrative that reflects their culture's values and beliefs about mortality and the afterlife.
Hello folks, and welcome back to Eerie Storytime. Today we delve into the shadows of time. With an hourglass in one hand and a scythe in the other, Father Time represents the unstoppable passage of life. He holds the power of every moment, past, present, and future. His relentless symbolism of the marching of the years has appeared throughout mythology and legend. Let's take a peek into the mythical shadows of Father Time. Father Time is instantly recognizable, a figure that has transcended generations. He is depicted as an old man with a long, flowing beard, symbolizing wisdom and the passage of years. His image embodies the relentless passage of time, a constant reminder of life's fleeting nature. He carries two iconic objects, an hourglass and a scythe, each with profound meaning. The hourglass, with its ever-falling sand, represents the constant flow of time, never stopping, never pausing. The scythe, a tool of harvest, symbolizes time's role as the reaper of life, cutting down all in its path. Father Time's appearance is a powerful reminder of time's passage, an ever-present force in our lives. Father Time's image is not merely decorative, it is deeply symbolic, rich with meaning and history. His aged appearance reflects the vastness of time itself, a testament to the endless march of days and years. His symbols, the hourglass and scythe, underscore time's dual nature, both nurturing and destructive. Time is both a giver and a taker, a force that shapes our existence. It nourishes life but ultimately brings it to an end, a cycle that continues endlessly. To understand Father Time, we must journey back to ancient mythology, where the concept of time was personified by powerful deities. The Greeks worshipped Kronos, the god of time, who played a crucial role in their understanding of the universe. Kronos was a primordial deity, one of the first beings to emerge at the dawn of creation. He was often depicted as a serpent with 3 heads. These 3 heads represented the past, present, and future, illustrating his control over the entire timeline. Kronos was a powerful figure with the ability to control time itself. The Romans, on the other hand, had Saturn, who shared many attributes with Kronos. Saturn was an agricultural deity, revered for his influence over the cycles of nature and time. He was associated with time and its passage, marking the seasons and the harvests. Saturn was celebrated during the festival of Saturnalia, a time of great joy and festivity. This festival was a time of feasting and revelry, where social norms were temporarily overturned. It took place in December, around the time of the winter solstice, symbolizing the return of light and the renewal of time. The Romans also associated Saturn with the scythe, a tool for harvesting crops, which further linked him to the passage of time. Both Kronos and Saturn embody key aspects of Father Time, representing the relentless march of time and its inevitable cycles. They represent time's power and its connection to the natural world, illustrating how time governs all aspects of life. Their myths and imagery have resonated through the ages, influencing countless cultures and their understanding of time. They continue to influence our understanding of Father Time today, reminding us of the timeless nature of these ancient stories. The scythe and hourglass are inseparable from Father Time, the personification of time itself. They are potent symbols of time's passage, each carrying deep meanings and historical significance. The scythe, a curved blade used for harvesting, represents time's role as the reaper, cutting down the time of our lives. Just as the scythe cuts down grain, time brings all things to an end, reminding us of life's impermanence. The hourglass is an equally potent symbol, representing the relentless flow of time. Its two glass bulbs, connected by a narrow neck, represent the past and the future, separated by the fleeting present. The sand flowing between them is the present moment, slipping away with each passing second. The hourglass reminds us that time is constantly flowing, never pausing for anyone. It cannot be stopped or reversed, emphasizing the importance of making the most of every moment. Together, the scythe and hourglass represent the cyclical nature of time, a never-ending loop of beginnings and endings. Life and death, growth and decay are all part of time's grand cycle, illustrating the balance of nature. These symbols serve as visual reminders of our own mortality, urging us to cherish our time. They also highlight the preciousness of the time we have, encouraging us to live fully and meaningfully. Father Time plays a central role in New Year celebrations. He is often depicted as the old year. He passes his mantle on to Baby New Year, who represents the year to come. This symbolic handover represents the cyclical nature of time. It also embodies the hope and renewal that come with each new year. The image of Father Time relinquishing his reign to Baby New Year is a powerful one. It reminds us that time marches on, regardless of our individual experiences. It also offers a message of hope. With each new year comes the opportunity for a fresh start. Father Time is a universal symbol of mortality and change. He reminds us that time waits for no one. His image prompts reflection on our own lives. How are we using the time we have? What legacy will we leave behind? The passage of time brings both joy and sorrow. It allows us to experience the wonders of the world, yet it also brings loss and the inevitability of death. Father Time embodies this duality. He is a reminder to cherish the present moment. He also encourages us to make the most of the time we have. Tracing the precise origins of Father Time is difficult. He is a composite figure. His imagery draws on various mythological and cultural traditions. However, we can find early depictions of Father Time in medieval and Renaissance art. One of the earliest known depictions is from the 15th century. It appears in a Book of Hours. This type of book was used for daily prayer. In that illustration, Father Time is depicted as an old man with a scythe and hourglass. He is standing on a globe representing the world. The myth of Father Time reflects our complex relationship with time. We are bound by time. It governs our lives. Yet we struggle to comprehend its vastness. We use calendars and clocks to measure time, but it remains an elusive concept. Father Time helps us to grapple with these abstract ideas. He gives a face to a formless concept. His image allows us to confront our own mortality. It also encourages us to appreciate the preciousness of life. Father Time continues to capture our imaginations. He appears in various forms of popular culture, including movies, television shows, video games, and literature. In these modern interpretations, Father Time serves as a reminder of the passage of time and the importance of making choices that lead to a fulfilling life. He is a figure of warning, but also of hope. He reminds us that we have the power to shape our own destinies. Father Time's enduring appeal lies in his ability to embody a universal human experience, the passage of time. He transcends cultural and historical boundaries. He connects us to our ancestors who grappled with the same existential questions. As long as humans continue to mark the passage of time, Father Time will remain a potent symbol. He reminds us of the cyclical nature of life. He encourages us to live fully in the present moment. He reflects our hopes and fears about the future. Father Time is a timeless icon. He embodies the enduring power of myth and storytelling.
Moving on from that weighty explanation, we're going to move on to something else. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. It's Anthropophagi. The land of origin, according to McCoy, is England. The other origins are the name of this fairy is Greek, but there is no exact evidence that this fairy was ever a part of Greek folk beliefs. Other names, none known. The element is air. Appearance and temperament. The Anthropophagi is a headless cannibal. What little brain he has is reputed to be near his reproductive organs. His eyes rest on his shoulders, and his mouth is in the center of his chest. He has no nose, a gift of nature which enables him to eat human flesh without gagging. They have very unpleasant natures, though it is said that they only kill when hungry. Time most active, unknown. Lore. These fairies were made popular by the famed English playwright William Shakespeare in Merry Wives of Windsor, 1602, and Othello, 1605, but they were already a part of English folklore before he brought them into the public consciousness. The name Anthropophagi literally translates from the Greek as man-eating. Some folklorists believe these are not fairies at all, but a remnant of a memory of a cannibalistic race which migrated from northern Africa to Britain in the early Dark Ages. Aside from consuming humans, these fairies are said to use human bones for tools and other daily used items such as mugs. Where to find them? Unknown. How to contact? Unknown. They may not fully exist except as nebulous and almost forgotten thought forms. Magical and ritual help? None. So, before I turn it over to Monster Files to give a much better explanation of these creatures, and I'm using that term loosely, in the actual, I am going to say right here and now that I do believe that this term is a racist term to refer to a certain type of people from either Africa or other places, to which of course the English have in the history of forever many different names for other cultures they did not understand. So I do not think that these are fairies. They were never fairies. They're not any weird type of, cultural tie to anything that lives in the forest or beyond. I simply think that this is a name that was given to actual human beings as a way to other them, which historically we have seen time and again. So for me personally, I would strike this from the record if you happen to come across it anywhere, in Faery Files or any sort of list on a blog that people are giving. This is more than likely a racist term. Completely fallen out of fashion and forgotten, of course, but definitely not something we should be using to refer to fairies, which isn't real, or people, for that matter. So that's my take on it, and now I'm going to turn it over to Monster Files so they can explain more.
Anthropophagus. The word Anthropophagus means cannibal, especially the ones in legends. This particular cannibal is most known in English folklore when popularized from the works of William Shakespeare in Othello and the Merry Wives of Windsor. But the first known account of these creatures was from a Greek historian called Herodotus. He called them Anthropophagi. He described them to be one of the tribes near Scythia, somewhere around the Eurasian area, and they were cannibals. This creature is described to have no head, but it still has a face. Rather, if you look from behind, the Anthropophagus would look human, with the exception of being headless. Now, how can they be headless but still have a face, you ask? Well, their face is on their torso. It is described to have eyes on their shoulders facing forward and mouth on their chest. They would probably always be shirtless or at least be wearing a very low-necked t-shirt. They are said to be nomads, had their own language, and was pretty savage. They were cannibals and would reuse the bones of their victims into utensils like decorations and even accessories.
So the next one on our list here are the Ashrays. And according to McCoy, their land of origin is Scotland. Other origins are none known. Other names are water lovers or Asrais. Their element is water. Their appearance and temperament. Ashrays are both male and female and appear to be about 20 years old in human time, when in fact they are quite ancient. They have whitish, almost translucent bodies and are often mistaken for sea ghosts. They have been blamed for good deeds and bad, but not enough is known about them to judge their overall intent or temperament where people are concerned. Most time active is at night, and their lore is it is known that Ashrays cannot live on land, which has led some mythologists to speculate that they may have descended from a mythological race condemned to the water for some grievous misdeed, real or imagined. Ashrays are completely nocturnal. If they are touched by sunlight, they will melt into a rainbow pool of water. Where to find them? Very few Ashrays are still seen today. If they are findable at all, it would be underwater. How to contact? Approach with extreme caution, as their actions and intent towards humans is unknown. Call to them in their own underwater world while you are well protected. Magical and ritual help is undetermined. So I do believe for this particular creature, McCoy got most of her lore right, but I am still going to turn it over to the mythological niche to further explain and give more accurate information of these creatures.
The Ashray is one of the most mysterious and elusive creatures in Scottish folklore. A rare water fae said to inhabit deep lakes, rivers, and coastal waters. Unlike other water spirits, which are often depicted as malevolent or vengeful, Ashrays are considered delicate, translucent beings, blending seamlessly with their aquatic surroundings. Their legend is one of mystery, transformation, and the power of nature's unseen forces. Ashrays are believed to be entirely nocturnal, avoiding sunlight at all costs. According to legend, if exposed to daylight, they dissolve into water, vanishing forever. This trait makes them incredibly difficult to encounter, adding to their elusive and supernatural nature. Some stories describe them as having humanoid features, while others portray them as shapeless, liquid-like beings that drift through the water. Their glowing, otherworldly eyes are often said to be the only thing visible in the dark waters where they reside. One of the most well-known tales of an Ashray comes from the coastal regions of Scotland, where fishermen claim to have seen a strange, luminous figure swimming beneath the surface. In one account, a young fisherman spotted a glowing form late at night while casting his nets. Mesmerized by its beauty, he reached into the water, only for the being to slip through his fingers like mist. When he told the village elders, they warned him that it was an Ashray and that no man should ever try to capture one, for they are not meant to exist in the human world. Another tale speaks of a young woman who unknowingly fell in love with an Ashray. She would meet a mysterious man by the river every night, and they would talk for hours. He told her stories of the deep, of lost lands beneath the waves, and of creatures that no human had ever seen. But one night, as dawn approached, she reached for him, and before her eyes, he melted away into the water, never to return. It is said that she spent the rest of her life searching for him, but an Ashray cannot survive in the daylight, and so he was lost to her forever. The Ashray share similarities with other water spirits found in Celtic and European folklore. In Irish mythology, the Selkies or Seal people could shed their skins and take human form, but like the Ashray, they were bound to the water and could not remain with humans for long. Similarly, in Germanic lore, Nixies were water spirits known for their haunting songs and ephemeral appearances. Yet, unlike these creatures, Ashrays do not seek out human interaction. They are passive, existing only in their aquatic world, untouched by human desires or fears. The legend of the Ashray carries themes of mystery, impermanence, and the idea that some forces of nature are meant to remain unknown. Their ability to dissolve in sunlight may symbolize the fleeting nature of dreams, the idea that some things are too delicate to be held onto. They also serve as a reminder of the vast and unexplored depths of the natural world, where secrets still linger beneath the surface. Though not as well known as mermaids or kelpies, Ashrays remain a fascinating part of Scottish folklore, embodying the quiet beauty and mystery of the waters they inhabit. Whether seen as protectors of hidden depths or as lost souls drifting through the currents, they remind us that some myths are meant to be glimpsed only in the shadows, vanishing with the dawn.
And for the final Fae creature, for this first episode, the pilot, we have Attorcroppe. So, the land of origin, according to McCoy, is Saxony. Other origins are none known. Other names are none known. Element is earth. Appearance and temperament. The Attorcroppe looks like a small serpent with arms and legs who walks upright. They are very malevolent. Time most active at night. Lore. Attorcroppe, from the same root as the word adder, literally means little poison head, and its likeness to a venomous serpent may mean that this fairy came into the fairy lore of old Saxony through the wily ways of poisonous snakes. Where to find them? If it is possible to find them at all, it would be in woodlands, near stream beds, and among rocks. How to contact? Must not be contacted because they may not fully exist in whole forms. Magical and ritual help is none. This last one is something that I've actually been talking about kind of periodically through this segments that we have been going through here. I looked and looked for any kind of resource to see if this was an actual account of actual folklore from an actual culture, and I couldn't find anything. The most I found were a couple of like Monsterpedia kind of things, but I personally can't trust those because these sources are kind of shady, and there was no cited sources on the websites. So I'm not sure where that information cropped up, but it became semi-popular in the lexicon. But I am going to say for this last one, this one fully doesn't exist. It's not a thing. If anything, it probably is a word that just is another synonym for poisonous snake in whatever culture that might be, but as an actual, fairy that is, disguising itself as a serpent or what have you, I don't think that lore is true. I think it's fully made up. Which is kind of interesting since we are talking about fairies, but to be clear, I do believe in fairies. I do. But it is important, like I said at the beginning, to know where the true lore comes from and where the false does. So, thank you all so much for joining me. If you made it this far, I know this was very long, but thank you so much. And also thank you to all of the creators out there that have put their hard work into their videos and allowed me to use their voices in this particular segments, for those of you that got back to me, of course. And obviously I will be linking everyone else's just so you know exactly where I came from, and they do get the credit for doing that deep dive. I just am doing this portion of it to keep us on the straight and narrow in the heathen community. So if you like this episode, please be sure to obviously like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next one. Good night.